Thanks for all of you for joining today. Welcome to Frost & Sullivan's latest growth webinar for the Security Research Programme. During today's session, as Julieta mentioned there, we're going to be focusing on some of the major trends that are going to impact the security industry for the year ahead. We're going to discuss some of the key growth opportunities that our team, and you can see we've got a fair few on the call today, plan to cover and focus on in 2025. So my name's Adrian Drozd. I'm the Vice President of Security Research at Frost & Sullivan. I'm actually joined by the whole of our commercial and public security team today. We thought we'd give you a good sort of overview from the team, as I mentioned, on the areas they're going to be covering. So we've got, you can see the full team here. We've got Danielle Van Zandt, who's our research manager based out of Texas in the US. Tara, who is an industry analyst also based in the US. We've got Dolores and Tobias, who are both based in Buenos Aires in Argentina. And we've got Pranav finally in India, just based outside of New Delhi. So let me just skip to one quick slide before we get into the growth opportunities. Just really wanted to show you this, to show really the coverage of our team before we get into the detail of the opportunities for the year ahead. Just really so you're aware of the research that we're doing that underpins the kind of discussion we're going to be having today. So we focus on, I suppose, two main areas, two blocks of our research. Firstly, we've got the end user perspective. We write quite a few reports and analyze the kind of end customer markets. You can see some examples there. Critical infrastructure is an important area, border security, airports in particular, really core as well. And then on the technology side, this is really where we're looking at the technologies that are securing the organizations in those end user markets. So you can see broken down into 4 or 5 different areas. Physical security, we're looking at things like surveillance and access control solutions, for example. Identity, biometrics and digital identity. Cybersecurity, which is, by the way, where we overlap with the other half of our security team, our cybersecurity team. We've got a whole team that's covering everything from cloud security to fraud detection on that side of the business as well. Lots of interaction ongoing on there. And then we've got kind of the operations side, you can see at the bottom. Every year we're producing around 30 different studies. We can certainly be in touch and give you a bit more detail of that if you'd like to follow up afterwards. We'd love to talk you through what we're doing there. Very good. So let's let me just skip to an overview slide. We're going to delve into detail on all of these, which is why I wanted all of the team to be here. They've got all of their sort of specialist areas of interest, which we'll run through today. But just taking a step back before we start asking some questions of the team. 2024, I think we all know, was another quite a notable year, let's say, for the security industry. We've still got all of those geopolitical challenges sort of floating around, of course, the conflicts in the Middle East, Eastern Europe, election campaigns, regime change around the world. All of these things, of course, continue to make it pretty interesting for security vendors and making it sometimes a little bit harder to secure businesses and organizations as well. But we're also seeing digital systems, new platforms continuing to be adopted across physical, logical, and identity security teams as well. Artificial intelligence, we'll talk a bit about that today. I know Pranav's going to touch on that. Real-time risk awareness, automation. These sorts of tools are coming to market, of course, so it can increasingly deployed, helping to combat some of those threats that we're seeing across, again, physical and identity and logical security. And of course, always in this space, regulations are important. We've seen quite a few developments there. We're certainly going to talk you through some of those and what we see in the year ahead in terms of the implications. So let's hand it over. Let's talk a little bit more about what the team is going to be focusing on for the year ahead, what they're excited about. I think these are the top trends, as I say, you've got on the screen at the moment. By the way, by no means a comprehensive view of every single trend we're going to be covering this year, but hopefully a kind of an interesting mix for today's call. So I think I'll start actually by asking a few of the team just to delve a little bit deeper onto a few of these. We will have time for some Q&A, as Julieta mentioned as well. Please pop your questions in the chat. We'll certainly get to those throughout if we've got time. And I apologise in advance if we don't get to all of them. We'll certainly follow up with you after the call if you can pop your details in. And one final point on sort of housekeeping. There will be a little poll, I think, towards the end. I'll hand over to Julieta just to run through that. It'd be great if you could fill that in, please. So let's start by looking at some of these key technology areas that they're going to deliver new growth opportunities in the year ahead. So maybe, Danielle, I can start with you on this one. I'll probably ask the same question to a few other members of the team. In terms of the technical capabilities that are available to security teams around the world, what are the ones you're most interested in? What are you going to be tracking and looking at in the year ahead?
One of the biggest areas that we've been following the last couple of years, and it still continues to be our biggest growth area, is risk intelligence, digital intelligence solutions. And so this is where an intelligence platform that offers threat assessment and data from across the business, physical security, cyber systems, business systems, and even outside intelligence sources. And so within that market, because we're looking at a $170 billion market by 2030, according to our last analysis last year. We're also looking at like a 23% CAGR. So we're keeping a really close eye on this market. But one of the big movements was the adoption of more geopolitical intelligence as a key resource and a key function within these intelligence solutions. This offers not just, geographic and localized information that can then be added into risk assessments or threat assessments by a business. So it gives them that localized coverage from no matter where their security team is versus where their business is in operation. So it helps them with improved threat detection. Again, that more localized presence and better risk awareness for wherever they have their business operating, whatever locations they're monitoring. And it also gives them some additional contextual awareness about what's happening around their business and what they need to be concerned about when it comes to making a security decision or even a business decision. So that's one of the big trends we're going to be following as we keep looking deeper into that growing intelligence space.
Good stuff. Thank you very much, Daniel. Yeah, it's a really interesting area. And you said we've done a lot of work in that sort of digital intelligence space in the last couple of years. Yeah, what about those companies you see mentioned at the bottom, by the way, Danielle, sort of the Ontix and Hivewatch? I know we track companies as well as markets, don't we? What are some of the really interesting things going on there?
So for one of the biggest and most interesting aspects for these companies is yes, they've had that geopolitical capability for a while, but these are some of the leaders when it comes to bringing in physical intelligence data points, as well as cyber threat data points, open source data points, business data points from other connected systems within the business. So they're good at being that data aggregation tool, but also then moving forward into the next step. What do you do to mitigate any threat that you detect? Or even doing proactive risk assessments. So they really allow the business to not only react, but get much more proactive and building up a more resilient security posture.
Very good. Thank you very much. Pranav, I'm going to ask you to touch on artificial intelligence a little bit. I know this is certainly an area that's had a lot of traction, a lot of news, press headlines in the last, year or two now, hasn't it? Right across the board, not just in security. And I know from some of the work that we've been doing, we need to look at this from both sides, don't we? There's some great tools out there which are integrating, which I'm sure you'll talk through. There are also lots of ways that the bad guys can use AI to kind of make our lives a little bit harder. So maybe talk us through some of that integration side of things. And that's something you've been particularly interested with.
Yeah, definitely. And especially after yesterday's Mr. Donald Trump's mega AI plan project. So yeah,
Okay.
definitely. Yeah. We're going to see a lot of significant changes in the physical and cybersecurity in the both spaces. It will transform the entire security ecosystem. So the AI will connect all the data points which they had in the past as historical trends and convert them into machine learning algorithms, which will provide the real-time analysis, the prediction analysis, the threat analysis. And then to maybe if we can see all the providers who will be providing these solutions to maintain the competitiveness over the 3 to 4 years, if we see, I think interoperability and edge-based AI capabilities should be what we could expect to see in these solutions. It should be a seamless integration, like if someone is integrating from a old security systems to a modern security system, which is AI based or AI driven. So the integration between the old and the new should be seamless, and that will be done through AI, through ML programs, through NLPs, natural language processing systems. So yeah, And the major growth opportunities that we can see in this integration will be in the areas for smart cities, smart infrastructures, uh, what you could say, the robot surveillance, the AI drones. These are the major growth opportunities that we can see, and especially in the area of government, law enforcement, healthcare, and banking and financial sectors as well. So yeah.
Very good. Yeah, really interesting area. I know that the cybersecurity team is going to be really delving into this as well. That's, I think many of you have seen on cybersecurity solutions over the last couple of years, there's been a lot more integration of AI, machine learning into those tools. I think we'll talk a little bit later about the huge shortage of security talent, certainly on the physical side of security, but also on the cyber side. So, this is coming to the fore. As I said, we also need to think about the flip side of AI, the fact that the bad guys have got tools that make their lives a lot easier as well. Phishing campaigns will be, or spear phishing campaigns, I should say, will be much more easy to spin up. All of those things that we hate getting in our inboxes are going to be sort of that much better with the application of some of these tools as well. And yet you mentioned some of the US developments in the last couple of days. Certainly seen it in the UK as well. UK government's really been, talking up AI generally, not just in security terms, but really thinking about how we can use AI to build in efficiencies to healthcare, for example, and education was another one we talked about in the UK. But it's going to have security implications. How can AI help us to secure, and what are the inherent risks actually of trusting AI, let's say, to make some of those decisions for us? So we'll be looking at right across the board. If anyone's on the call has got thoughts they'd like to share on this market, we'd love to hear them. We'd love to get in touch just to talk through the different aspects of this really important part of the market, we think, for the year ahead. Thank you very much for that, Pranav. Tara, I'm going to hand over to you now. I guess this is more about baking security in from the start, really, isn't it, when we're talking about secure by design? Just want to talk us through this one.
Yeah, so I'm interested in how secure by design approach is evolving. Embedding secure hardware components into systems right from that that development stage is really gaining traction. And it is critical for minimizing vulnerabilities, right? So it aligns with principles like threat modeling, least privilege access, which are especially important for high stakes environments like public safety, law enforcement. And then we have system hardening, where tools or practices like patch management, removing unnecessary applications are being used to shrink those attack surfaces. And these practices are starting to become non-negotiable as systems are as they grow more interconnected and as the threat landscape evolves. On the growth opportunities front for that, again, we're talking about AI here. There's the integration of AI, enhanced system hardening strategies with zero trust frameworks. AI is helping to enable real-time threat detection, while zero trust ensures the continuous validation of users and devices. And so together, they represent a powerful and adaptive defense model.
Very good. Seems like AI kind of fits in a lot of these places, doesn't it? Whenever we're talking about anything, it seems this year we're going to be thinking about how AI zero trust fits into that as well. That's an interesting one. Thank you. What about some of the companies there we've got? Is there anything particular you'd point out, Tara, in terms of the companies that are maybe ahead of the game a little bit there? I know we listed a couple. Oh.
Yeah, Motorola Solutions, Text One Networks.
They're just a couple, are they, that you think of just slightly ahead of the game? Okay, very good. Thank you very much. Dolores, we haven't heard from you yet. Let's have a look at looking kind of around the MDR side of things a little bit here. And before you do, I think just to say that, again, the cybersecurity part of our team covers MDR and XDR and all that kind of cybersecurity related elements as well. But there's clear crossover to our team as well here, isn't there? So maybe talk us through what you see in this area, what sort of coming up in the year ahead, perhaps.
Yes, of course. In terms of features or technical capabilities that are available for security teams, I think that one of the most important ones are the advancements in mitigation, detection, and response functions that we know them as MDR. In the last few years, I saw them as game changers of the industry since they reduce the response times and make resource deployments efficient for security teams. And I think that some of the key features that they have to make this easier and efficient for security operators to manage during incidents and previously and after one incident happened is, for example, the real-time threat detection, the automated incident response, advanced threat intelligence integration, again, the workflow automation, and also the adaptive learning capabilities. I think that all these features and capabilities that these solutions gathers empower security teams to focus more on strategic tasks than on the mitigations of incidents while they are happening. And also if something happens, then they can like reconstruct and map after this happen. Also, I'm very excited to see how these technologies will evolve and integrate with existing systems, since it was a challenge that I've been seeing on all the reports that I did last year, and it's something that security vendors and also security teams are very aware of.
Very good. And you mentioned that regulatory and compliance solutions on the bottom bullet point there. Is that one of the key
Yes.
areas that you see these sort of solutions being deployed?
Absolutely. I will talk about it after, but yeah, most of the vendors and also the customers of the security industry are very aware and like known about the regulatory and the compliance of these solutions, since of course in each country we have different laws and regulations that solutions must be aware of when we continue to use them or developing them by the security vendors. Yeah.
Very good. And obviously mention of AI again, we've talked, and I'm sure we'll talk again about the kind of security staffing and the fact that it's very hard to get good people. So yeah, you need tools that can do some of that automation for you, take, as you said, the sort of heavy lifting, sort of filter through things and make sure that those limited teams are focused on the areas that really matter. So yeah, absolutely vital area, totally agree. Tobias, leaving you till last. Apologies for that, but maybe you can talk through this one. This is one of the more interesting ones, I think, as well, in terms of the identity challenge. And I would just say beforehand, we do a lot of survey work. We speak to CISOs, those chief information security officers, trying to understand some of their pain points and where they see their big challenges. And I know identity is always very high up on that list. So yeah, new, I suppose the new perimeter really, isn't it? In many cases, identity. We used to sit behind a firewall in an office. We're all spread around and entering different parts of the business, either digitally or physically. And that's where this really comes in. So yeah, talk us through it.
Yeah, 100%. This is one of like the more traditional security areas when we're doing reports. It's one of the first things that pop into mind, but there's like a big change coming into the identity systems that this year I'm going to be paying particular attention. And it's this convergence between digital and physical systems that are being unified into one single framework that is allowing for streamlined access to access control, while at the same time reducing those complexities that are associated with managing different systems. So some of the key features that I'm going to be looking into the space this time of year are biometric authentication, AR-powered identity verification, also cloud-based access management, which is becoming increasingly important as these organizations are trying to scale their solutions up so they can be easily deployed across physical and digital environments. I think that it's also really important to note there's like a big increase in real-time analytics and anomaly detection within the systems. That's a really big key point that I'm going to be keeping my eyes out. And then finally, the sort of like integration of multi-factor authentication, that it's further strengthening the systems, providing sort of like an additional layer of security that it's really crucial in today's hybrid work environments with people coming in at the office and also doing some remote work. So I'm going to be really interested in seeing how these technologies will continue to evolve and how they will be adopted across different sectors and industries, some that are more heavily regulated than others. So it's going to be interesting to see how that works out. And also see how this demand for more user-friendly, but at the same time secure solutions keeps growing.
Very good. I suppose picking up on that convergence aspect, Toby, that you mentioned, that cyber-physical convergence, we've been hearing about this for a decade or more now, haven't we? You know, what's different at the moment? What's different in the year ahead, do you think, in that sort of area?
So I think that this is no longer sort of like a theoretical discussion of seeing like this mix. This is a reality, and especially in the identity space. And this is not only showing up at regular businesses and corporations. It's showing up on discussions about IDs and passport controls. This is like a big mix that is like spreading even more and more. So I think that the pandemic, sort of like a trigger word, but it was a big push for this this sort of shift. Also, those hybrid work models that are here to stay, even though there's some discussion around that. So I think that this integration between digital and physical identity systems is something that companies are really actively implementing. And I know that you mentioned SEOs, but sometimes the top executives are sometimes calling the shots on changing the way that people get into the office. And these sort of executives are becoming more and more comfortable with these sorts of technologies. It's not seen as intimidating or overly complex. So really the focus here has been on user experience and making it easier for people to get around into the building, get around into their systems, and really like just start working faster, but in a safer way. So, and one of the added benefits and bonuses that more and more companies are starting to mention, as I added in the growth accelerators, is the added benefit of being able to optimize the buildings themselves. So you can adjust layouts based on occupancy trends and streamline how employees are interacting with the environment. So these converged identity systems are allowing companies to get the most out of their spaces and their people while being more secure. So there's definitely some win-win situations in this space.
Yeah, I was actually having some interesting conversations with some colleagues in our energy environment team. We cover the sort of building technology space as well. Exactly that stuff, you know, making efficient use of the resources you've got, not heating spaces, for example. There's lots of things that link into this, I guess, aren't there, in terms of occupancy? So
yeah,
really interesting area that I think really expands out to other areas of our coverage across the company actually as well. Very good. So this sort of digital physical convergence, Dolores, I think it links in some of your areas as well, doesn't it? On the public safety side of things.
Yeah. Well, in the last year, I've been working a lot with public safety and these conversions about the cyber and physical security systems. And I think that it's a good starting point to say that the discussion has shifted due to the growing digital technologies. These digital technologies are entering the public safety landscape more and more each day. This conversation or debate that we are having is centered on the integration of these two systems, of course. And I think that this has to do with a few trends that we are seeing on the public space that it has to do, for example, with the integration of surveillance cameras, traffic sensors, emergency systems that provide, as Toby said, real-time information for security teams, also cloud-based platforms that are enabling security teams to have scalable remote access solutions and not to rely always on traditional and complex systems. Also, one of the most important ones are the emerging cyber threats that due to this digitization of the public safety systems. Of course, it expands the vulnerabilities to cyber attacks or cyber threats, which demand a strong security system for the organizations. And also, as I mentioned on my previous answer, the trust and transparency of these systems, I think that digitized systems, of course, bring a greater transparency to the security teams, but they also raise a lot of concerns about the privacy of the information, and that's an important point that security vendors and organizations are considering. And I think that the key difference on this conversation is not just a technical issue, but also like a critical aspect of ensuring public safety in an interconnected world that we are having nowadays. I think that I strongly believe that security teams and organizations must work together to balance in between innovation with risk management to make these systems more effective, and to security teams to deploy resources better and help like for public safety, of course.
Very good, thank you. And Danielle, another area that we've covered for a number of years, with support from our colleagues in the cybersecurity team and the industrial team, part of Frost & Sullivan, is OT cyber, isn't it? That's also a very relevant area when we're talking about this converged sort of physical, digital as well.
Yeah.
Talk us through that.
Well, it's not just physical digital convergence when it comes to the OT space, but they've always been talking about the convergence of IT security and OT security. And then kind of over the years, you've also added IoT security and industrial IoT and Internet of Medical Things to that definition. So it's just basically OT security has become that big convergence point for a lot of these security systems. And it's seen some terminology changes in the industry, and we're actually working through some of that new terminology in our OT coverage this year. So you may hear us talk a lot about CPS security or cyber physical systems security, because those are the systems really bringing together that holistic OT security view that we've seen that has started to jump into commercial industries too. It's no longer just in the industrial space or critical infrastructure, but basically any commercial industry that has a lot of IoT devices, their IT systems, their business systems that require monitoring, but also vulnerability management, and just allowing security teams visibility into what actually is their full organizational network and what needs to be protected. So that explains the big shift to include some of these industries like healthcare, the building management side of the business and facilities management, automotive, manufacturing, any kind of manufacturing too, whether we're talking food and beverage or something more technical like pharmaceuticals. So we're seeing all of these different areas adopting OT security practices because it really has become that big unifier across the stack. And so we're seeing like the IT security market may have taken a couple decades to include certain capabilities within their solutions. On the OT side and the CPS side, consequently, we're seeing that coming at basically a 2 to 3 times faster than the IT space did. So treating these connected devices like endpoints, OT specific, XDR, MDR. Again, you're going to see integration of AI to help us figure out what all we're seeing here. But then there's going to be automated risk assessments, OT-based threat intelligence on top of the threat intelligence they're already getting from their systems. So it's really going to be using these systems to get that better security picture, know what their threats are, and then being able to protect their business from there. And the regulatory space in this area is also going to be very interesting, because a lot of these commercial industries are probably going to be the big pushers instead of like a security specific mandate. The industries themselves will set the mandate that will then carry over into security. And we're expecting that, the North American market and Europe in particular, because they've got a lot of new regulations coming to play this year that they will be the ones who potentially set those standards.
Very good. Yeah, I think we'll touch on some of the broader regulations across the industry a little bit later as well, won't we? Thank you for that. So we've talked already a little bit in passing about the shortage of security personnel, let's say skilled people, and that's true across the whole security landscape, cyber and more the physical, I think. And technology is going to play a role. We talked about AI quite a lot already, haven't we? That sort of automation levels. Just wanted to ask a few of you, where have you seen technology offering really effective ways to augment how operations teams do their job? You know, we know there's not enough people. We see in our surveys, for example, every time we run them, that comes up as one of the key barriers to, you know, better security, let's say, to better security posture. Just not enough skilled people to do it properly. And, you know, budgets are not so much of a problem these days. People get the budget. I think there's recognition at C-level that investment in security is an absolute requirement. It's mandatory. It's not just about keeping the lights on. It's about proactively keeping things safe and secure. So it's not so much about the money. It's about getting the people and the resources you need and using technology to fill the gaps, I guess, to a certain extent. Tara, how does that link into some of the things that you're doing?
Well, one area where technology is making a difference is in the third-party value chain security, you know, which focuses on protecting organizations' extended ecosystem, you know, suppliers, partners, third-party vendors. So with automated tools, value chain security systems reduce the burden on operations teams by handling tasks, you know, like real-time risk assessment, vendor monitoring, compliance tracking. You know, for example, using, you know, again, AI-driven solutions, organizations can identify weak links before they, you know, do become vulnerabilities. And so this not only protects the organization, but it also ensures that their partners are aligned with high security standards. This means, you know, you have fewer manual checks for operators and faster incident resolution for, you know, when something does go wrong. For industries like healthcare and utilities, where, you know, disruptions can have, you know, life-threatening consequences, these technologies really are a game changer. So, you know, they allow security teams to focus on, you know, these higher priority tasks while technology takes care of the repetitive, resource-intensive processes.
Thank you very much. And I guess Pranav, going back to you on this, sort of you've talked a bit about AI and it links across everything, but what about this side of things, the sensorization point? This is a key part of automation as well, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. There are two stories to it. So first is the sensorization itself. It's a technology, and AI is another story to it. So there are two technology mixtures. So to put a little bit you know, light on this trend, AI and sensorization will and is revolutionizing the security operations by making them you know, more autonomous, more data driven, and more scalable. We know that, you know, in sensor technologies we use you know, integrated sensor networks. Daniel talked about IoT industrial sensors, and then we also have, you know, now IoT connected cameras. Now we have biometric access controls. We have environmental sensors in AI drones and robotics. So these constantly provide, you know, real-time data and provide you know, trends, and always backing up the machine to, you know, provide as many insights as they can to minimize the human monitoring, which saves up. Where do you know, you ask that how AI is really helping the people. This is how they're helping the people, that they try to, you know, sideline the you know, less risk oriented task and focus on more high risk oriented tasks by giving them these insights. And then the, you know, the other trend that in sensor technologies is about the incident prioritization, as I was telling, that the combination of sensors and the AI will help to filter out the the false alarms and to rank them on the basis of alerts based on risk levels, so that the human monitoring that who is monitoring these technologies can genuinely find out the genuine threats instead of just wasting time or on unresponsive threats. So yeah, and I think yeah, the autonomous security tools, they are also helping in this sensualization movement, because lots of we are in the age of 5G network. We are already in the talking terms of 6G. So whatever we see in the AI-driven drones and the smart surveillance systems will get more faster, more responsive, and they will be able to react and provide insights at a much faster speed, which they do currently. So yeah, and sensitization. So let me give you a quick example, which I did a recent study as well at the related to that as well in maritime ports. So there's a digital twin technology that we all are aware of. So they use this sensitization technology, which helps them to move big tons of freights from just their desk, sitting at their desk from a small remote. So this is all with the help of sensors, 5G networks, and autonomous cranes. So so yeah, this is the pretty much trend that I'm seeing, and this is the pretty much insightfulness. So yeah,
good stuff. I think before we move on, Dolores, maybe just coming back to you really quickly, you talked about sort of the mitigation, detection, response side of things a little while ago. I guess that links in
Yes.
as well, doesn't it, in terms of how technology can help? What's the focus there?
Yeah, I think that the shortage in trained security operators, it's still a significant challenge on the industry. And I really believe that technology systems have a critical role in this. And also, as I mentioned previously, MDR solutions are a key technology in this space, since they offer effective ways to streamline security operations. For example, they use artificial intelligence to identify threats in real time, and this can reduce manual workload and improve response efficiency. Also, automation enables threat prediction and prevention. This can shift operations from reactive to proactive strategies for security teams. Also, they support larger environments without increasing staffing needs, which is a pro for this big challenge that they have. They also, what I mentioned previously about the integrated workflows, this automate incident response can also minimize the attack impact through instant actions that are like pre-incident tasks. And of course, the development of orchestration platforms, unified tools and processes that are efficient and allow teams to focus more on critical tasks. So I think that in summary, the shift to real time and including MDR solutions is transforming the way that security teams can operate and can be more efficient and good for the security teams and the security operations. I really believe that automating threat detection, response, and orchestration will help to overcome staffing shortages and also work more effectively, since we are seeing that emerging cyber threats and cyber attacks are most common every day in this industry. So yeah.
Very good, thank you. So one final block of questions where we see that growing risk awareness around digital security, individual privacy, critical infrastructure security as well. We see sort of how security practices across those areas can impact the whole of society. What are some of the areas that we've looked at where security practices and frameworks have had, let's say, a broader impact on the world? I guess, Toby, you're going to talk us through a little bit on the regulatory side. I know Danielle touched on
Yeah.
this a little bit, didn't she? But there's some broader things going on as well.
Yeah, I think that everyone touched on this point a little bit, and it's one of the biggest things in this particular industry, in the security industry. So yeah, we're seeing a wave of new regulations that are reshaping how organizations are approaching security. But this impact, I think, especially in 2025, is huge in how business are going to be conducting their business and how society will be impacted as a whole. So as you can see on the slide, I have like a whole bunch of regulations that are coming into force this year. Many of them were enacted some years ago, but it's going to be on 2025 that they come into full force and effectiveness. So for example, over there, I have the US Cyber Trust Park initiative. This is going to be sort of like a nutrition label for IoT devices, helping customers easily try and identify which products are meeting strict cybersecurity standards. Then I have, for example, the US Executive Order 14117, which is targeting foreign access to sensitive data, and it's really trying to push companies and agencies to try and rethink how they're handling their data and tightening their protocols. Then going, as they say, across the pond in the EU, they have the NIS2 directive and the Cyber Resilience Act that are really game changers in Europe. They're bringing like stricter requirements for critical infrastructure and digital products manufacturers. So it's really like forcing organizations to prioritize robust cybersecurity measures across like critical areas like energy, transportation, and healthcare. Then I also added in the SEC's requirement for reporting cybersecurity incidents. This has been in effect for a little while, but it's basically the key element here is transparency and having large companies disclose their major cyber incidents for not only accountability, but also like faster response time and more trust in the markets. And then finally, try not to be too long with these many regulations, but across the US government, there's also going to be big changes and impacts in regulations with the new National Security Memorandum and the 2021 Zero Trust Executive Order. As the government works, it's a little bit slower with bureaucracy and everything, but when federal agencies are opening government contracts for contractors, these are the things that they're going to be looking at. And especially when it comes to zero trust, this is going to be a key element to look out for. So overall, sort of like trying to sum up all these regulations that are coming up this year, this is allowing vendors, I think, to go beyond compliance to actually build trust and resilience and long-term security into the systems that they're providing, whether for federal government agencies, local government or law enforcement, energy, businesses, whatever. So it's a really massive opportunity to help companies adapt to zero trust architecture, securing the IoT ecosystems, or sort of like helping them navigate these complex regulatory requirements. So I think for consulting, it's a big opportunity to help businesses that way.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's an interesting one. I think a lot of the work we do is obviously more on the enterprise government kind of level, isn't it? But what you're saying, the first one I think you mentioned, or more on the consumer side, is really interesting as well, because I was in a workshop session in London last week and we were talking about exactly that. And the fact, obviously, since COVID, there's been a lot more remote working. We're connecting to enterprise networks from our homes, many of us now. And really, that can be quite a weak link in the whole infrastructure, to be perfectly honest.
Yeah.
People are putting devices into their home from Amazon, plugging things in here and over here. You think how many different devices each of us has in our home that's connected to our Wi-Fi networks now, and then really think about how secure each of those ones are. Do we even know the security of them, whether it's a smart plug or a smart light bulb, for example? So yeah, that one is something I think we really need to explore a little bit more, maybe branch out our research and think about those implications for that hybrid working environment where perhaps we're not sitting always on a VPN, we're connecting to things that maybe there's some weak links in our home infrastructure that cause some challenges as well. So interesting to see some of the regulations that kind of fit into that and start putting a few, I guess what you're saying is a stamp of approval and trust on some of those consumer devices as well, essentially. Very good. Danielle, how does this fit in with, you talked about geospatial sort of digital intelligence earlier on. I think that probably fits here as well, doesn't it, in terms of that broader perspective on things?
It definitely does. I do want to add one more regulation to Toby's list, though, that is going to come up in a lot of our research this year, and it's the implementation of the EU's AI Act. And since that will be the first one around artificial intelligence usage, but it still hits on that public trust theme that Toby was talking about, where it really seeks to achieve that verifiable and that transparency in how AI conclusions and decision making is generated. So being able to explain that really to help consumers gain the trust of what they're being told or how these systems operate. So I think that one's going to come up a lot in our research this year. On the digital intelligence front, with the geopolitical intelligence, especially, that it's going to go back to that localized coverage. So being able to get real-time insights or intelligence about what's going on in the communities that the business is operating in, and knowing not just if that's a threat to the business, but if there's the potential of like, okay, if our operations are impacted here, is there some type of spillover effect? One example where we've seen this happen is I know some digital intelligence companies, especially during the height of the pandemic, would keep an eye on the public health notices. And so they would feed that intelligence into their customers' platforms to potentially help the business plan for if a more strict lockdown was going to go into place, or if there were bad weather or things like that that could affect the people, not just affect the business and the operations and, you know, the dollar signs, but actually how it impacts their employees, but also that community that their business operates in.
Exactly, yeah. I think Tara probably has some implications in terms of what you were talking around the value chain side of things as well, doesn't it?
Right. Yeah. So, you know, like we were saying earlier, the value chain security, you know, that influences the entire ecosystem, you know, that an organization operates in, right? So by pushing vendors and partners to adopt, you know, these stronger security standards, organizations can ensure that those weak links don't put critical services at risk. You know, for example, if an energy provider ensures all the, you know, that all of its vendors are meeting these high security benchmarks, it doesn't protect, you know, just its own operations. It's also safeguarding the entire community that relies on uninterrupted power. And, you know, and so those ripple effects, it you know, goes down to, you know, healthcare, transportation, disaster preparedness, and even, you know, beyond protecting services, this approach fosters a culture of accountability and transparency, right? So, you know, by holding these partners to higher standards, organizations not only reduce risks, but they also build trust with the stakeholders. And so, you know, we're talking about interconnectedness, you know, so this is a very powerful reminder of how interconnected our world is, and how good security practices can contribute to that, you know, safer, more resilient society.
We're coming towards the end now. Thank you everyone for joining. First of all, if there's any questions that spring up afterwards, please do get in touch. I'd like to just wrap up, just going around the team again one more time. Now, we're obviously in a pretty fortunate area. We're in a fast-moving, pretty exciting area of the market at the moment. So when we look ahead, I guess, Danielle, what is the thing that you're most looking forward to in terms of the research you're going to be focusing on for the next year?
So as I mentioned earlier, the OT space has been kind of changing its own definitions and, you know, creating this whole new segmentation just because of how quickly it's starting to develop. So this year I'll be doing a full cyber physical system security report. And so doing a deep dive into how that industry has changed over the last couple of years, and then the vendors who will be doing a Frost Radar competitive benchmark on the vendors who are helping to not only provide visibility into these systems, but help companies to close those vulnerabilities, react to attacks, and really become that more proactive security operation.
Very good. Tara?
I am most looking forward to the biometric solutions report. There are already so many applications for biometric security across, nearly every industry. And, bringing up AI again, with the integration of AI, I'm excited to see, all these new use cases for the technology. And, the threat landscape is rapidly evolving, because, cyber criminals are integrating AI into their attack strategies. And so I think it'll be exciting to see what AI can also do to kind of turn that around and protect organizations through their biometric solutions.
Absolutely. Very interesting area. How about you, Dolores?
Yeah, this year I will be working on airport security, which is an industry that keeps me very motivated for the year. I worked with this topic, I think it was last year. No, the other one. It was so fast that I don't know which year it was. And I think that it's an industry that is in constant change and developing new technologies. So I'm looking forward to speaking with the experts and the company about what's new and their challenges for this year. And also I will be working on non-human identity solutions, which is a market that I feel very comfortable with because I've been working with identity features since I entered Forest. And with all that's going on with artificial intelligence and machine learning, I think I will see a lot of surprises in this report, which keeps me very excited.
Yeah, that airport one is one of the most tangible. Every time you can go on holiday, you'll be looking at scanners and surveillance cameras, I'm sure. Very good. Pranav,
yeah,
what about you?
Identifying vendors. Yeah.
Exactly. How about you, Pranav?
Well, for me, there are two different, but yeah, on the same note, two exciting complete industry studies would be there and associated Frost Radar competitive benchmarking. So first one is unmanned solutions for emergency services. So I'm really excited to see, how drones and robots and all the, AI and robotic development, especially after NVIDIA's kickstarting of the year, Mr. Jensen showed the whole lined up robotics in their, that speaking, in which they're working with the big players, Boston Dynamics to the all the Chinese big players. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that. And then obviously this is the most interesting. AI uses in security operations. Again, we have talked about a lot of AI in this, but yeah, that's the reality. I think I'm really excited to see that how the physical security teams will be helped through AI to mitigate and face the shortcomings of these work shortages that they have currently. I believe AI can help this bridge this gap, but I really want to have an insightful discussion with the real industry players who are trying to solve this problem. So yeah.
Very good. Thank you. Last but not least, Toby.
Yeah, so this year I'm really looking ahead to diving into environmental security solutions. I know it's a different topic, it's not so traditional, but I think this area is really gaining a lot of attention as the world is becoming more focused on preserving ecosystems. So I'm gonna be focusing on systems that are protecting against wildlife hunting, poaching. So really looking at technologies like advanced surveillance systems, drones, tracking tools. So I'm really, really eager to look at how these systems have been evolving over the last couple of years and how are they bettering the protection of natural resources. So yeah, it's gonna be an interesting topic, a little bit challenging, but you can expect that at the end of the year.
Another great one linking into other bits of Frost and Sullivan, I think, on the sort of sustainability angle. So
Yeah.
all about collaboration there, aren't we, and linking it all together. Thank you, team. Thanks for running through that. It's a really interesting session. Thanks for everyone who joined.